obsolete, Mr. Wordsworth.
Lie. No man is obsolete.
It's a cookbook.
Who are we?
When will they take the bandages off?
You're a bad man. You're a very bad man.
This lemon sucker here. He's the most suspicious of the bunch.
My name is Talkie Tina, and I'm beginning to hate you.
I believe you're going my way.
Live from Willoughby at the heart of the Twilight Zone. Here are your hosts, Alex and Tyler, the prestigiously perfect podcast in which we call The Twilight Zone.
What is up, Gnomies? I'm Tyler.
And I'm Alex.
Welcome to the Twilight Gnome Podcast, episode 44. What episode will we be discussing today, Alex?
This week we will be discussing The Parallel.
Yes, Season 4, Episode 11. Original air date was March 14th, 1963. This was written by Rod Serling and directed by Alan Crosland Jr., and he did 4 Twilight Zone episodes. You want to hear what they are?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, they are obviously this one, The Parallel, and he also did The Old Man in the Cave, The Seventh is Made Up of Phantoms, and Ring-a-Ding Girl.
I like quite a few of them. I guess this and Old Man in the Cave are the two best out of those for me.
I'd have to disagree. This one was terrible, but I do really like The Seventh is Made Up of Phantoms.
I can't stand that one.
And Old Man in the Cave was one I remember liking quite a bit too. I've never seen Ring-a-Ding Girl though.
I don't think I've ever seen that either. I know of it, and I kind of know the basic plot synopsis, but I do not know.
I have no idea what it's even about, so I guess it'll be fun when we eventually get to it. But yeah, we'll jump right into it. Alex, what was your favorite moment?
I have two. One was a moment and one was an aesthetic thing. So I'll go with my aesthetic first. The hospital shot right after the whole like flash of light, and then it's like a black room and it zooms in on him. I love that shot.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
And then, but my favorite moment is when Helen kisses him and freaks out. Like, what the fuck could he have possibly done that was that different to make?
My husband usually gives me tongue.
Right? He didn't stick his finger in my ass like usual.
I know. I was thinking the same thing when I was watching that scene. I was like literally it would have to be about like the amount of tongue or like what could it possibly be?
He
like
tastes different. He didn't taste like gin this morning.
My favorite moment was near the end there where it's like some military base and you see the rocket, the remains of the rocket that he came in on, and there's like a scientist guy and he's saying like, oh, like I checked this over, like it looks in every way a lot like the one we sent up, but this is different. Like the wiring's a little different. Like I like the idea that like there's some physical
that he was so intimate with this rocket that he knows which fucking bolts and nuts are different.
Yeah, I guess that is like a little insane, but I don't know. I liked just the idea that it wasn't entirely in his head, and there's like some physical proof to his hysteria.
This one definitely it doesn't lead it up to. Was it all in his head? Because at the end, they actually hear Colonel Gaines come over the radio broadcast.
We'll get to it later. There's a lot that I hated about this episode. I think that's part of it, but yeah.
We have the technology to rebuild it.
Doctor, what have you created?
I am for all intent and purposes AI Serling.
So every week I put a prompt into ChatGPT and come up with a Serling-style intro for the episode, and this week it came up with this. Portrait of a man named Robert Gaines. Occupation, astronaut. Assignment, to orbit the Earth 15 times aboard the spacecraft Phoebus 10. Destination, the stars. Though his journey will take him much further than planned. For Robert Gaines is about to encounter a flash of light, a break in the fabric of space and time that will strand him in a place both familiar and alien. A place where faces he knows will not know him, and the life he remembers will be just out of reach. A place not found on any map, but one that exists in the Twilight Zone.
That was pretty decent.
Thanks.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it felt like my first time doing it, but this is...
Well, usually yours are pretty crappy. I usually nitpick them pretty bad, but that was pretty good.
Thanks. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too. So every week, Alex and I come up with a few questions for each other to keep each other on our toes while watching said episode, and I came up with 4 this week.
I have 4 as well.
Right.
No, I have 3.
All right, I'll go first then.
Okay.
How much does the newspaper cost?
Damn, 10 cents.
Yeah. You just pulled it out your ass?
Hardcore out of my ass.
I paused that and looked at I was like looking all over the newspaper for like something like obtuse to like.
It was hard to get it out of there since that turkey's still up there from Thanksgiving, but.
Yeah, I was intentionally a really hard one, but you nailed it.
Right. According to Bill, how many times did Glenn orbit the Earth?
3?
Yeah. Did you pull that out of your ass?
I slightly remember it, but also like I feel like that's like a thing you might have learned in school or something.
Was that actually based on?
Yeah, that's a real person.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right.
Where is Bobby lost over?
Fuck. They sound like they were speaking Spanish, or was he going like over like the Congo? I think he was like on his way over to like Africa. So
The beginning of when he stops being able to like talk to them is they mention Bermuda, and then like he stops talking with them, and then afterwards they list a couple other destinations that he's passing over.
I think,
but like they lost like contact of like, him not talking with them over Bermuda.
That's what I figured, but
Which is kind of cool, like the whole Bermuda Triangle. I think they were trying to throw that in there.
a little nod to one of our other little Twilight Gnome videos there.
Yeah, the
Terror
Bermuda
of the
Triangle.
T-Rex. All right. How many miles from the launch site was Bob's shuttle found?
60.
46.
Okay. What's the last thing he remembers when he first wakes up? Not the first time he wakes up, like for the second time he wakes up. I don't know why.
He remembers something about like the thrust or something.
No, he says the last thing I remember was the 15th orbit.
Oh, all right. My final one. What is Bob's house number?
That's my last one. It's 358.
Yeah. I was looking to see if it changed, but it didn't.
I don't think they show it close up enough the first time. You barely get a look at it like in the very beginning, which is, again, one of the things I really hate about this episode is they don't like show what his life was like prior. So you have nothing to compare it to later when he's like, everything's changed. Like, well, from my perspective as the viewer.
Especially a very bold move as we're going to see jumping into the plot here, because the first time it shows the house, it's nighttime. So you don't really see the fucking fence or the house anyway. So
Exactly.
That was really fucking dumb.
Yeah.
They should have had the shots almost be identical, but just the fence be added in the alternate universe.
And
not have
also
it at
just
nighttime.
like, this is an hour-long episode. You have time to stretch your legs, like show a day in his normal life before everything changes so we can like see those minor changes in his life.
Yep, I agree.
All right, so we'll jump right into the plot here on this one. So, like you said, it opens up with it's like really dark. It's early morning, and there's like a newspaper guy going by throwing newspapers out to people. And then we get an interior shot, and it's a woman sitting on a bed, and she's on the phone with someone, and she's saying, "Oh yeah, we'll be watching." When her young daughter walks into the room, and you can tell both of them are kind of like upset, kind of more of like a nervous upset, not like sad upset, but like a nervous upset, like something's going to be happening. And then the mother says, "Oh, I'll get you some hot cocoa, I'll get myself some coffee," and she walks out into the kitchen there. Then we get to see a newspaper clipping that kind of talks about
The first man to orbit Earth, or how many times he was going to orbit
exactly.
Earth.
I think that at
It
this
said,
point, Glenn, someone had already orbited, but this time he was doing it 15 times, which was going to be like a new record. He's going to be up there for like a week or something. So we kind of can piece together at this point, she's probably the wife of the astronaut, and that's why her and her daughter are so nervous. And it's at this point that we hear Rod.
In the vernacular of space, this is T-minus 1 hour. 60 minutes before a human being named Major Robert Gaines is lifted off from the Mother Earth and rocketed into the sky, farther and longer than any man ahead of him. Call this one of the first faltering steps of man to sever the umbilical cord of gravity and stretch out a fingertip toward an unknown. Shortly, we'll join this astronaut named Gaines and embark on an adventure. Because the environs overhead, the stars, the sky, the infinite space, are all part of a vast question mark known as the Twilight Zone.
I kind of liked how in this one, we even though all of season 4 has Rod kind of standing behind a white wall, it kind of starts with a voiceover on top of what's going on in the main scene. Kind of breaks up a little bit from...
Yeah, it did it the last season 4 we watched as well. Horace Ford, remember he was making the paper airplane and threw it out?
Yep.
While he did that, they should have just went back to what they did in season 1 and just had it be voiceover.
Exactly, but at least like a mix of the two is kind of better than like just straight cut to Rod in a white room somewhere.
Yep, for sure.
So anyway, yeah, after Rod intro, we see a astronaut, and he's getting helped into a seat horizontally, which...
The most awkward thing, because he's not even in the ship, so that means they're going to transport him like that from the office to the ship like that?
I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm like, so why get him ready? Unless it was just like to make sure that he would fit in this seat, but I feel like that's
They
something
would
they
have
would have
done that
done long
months ago.
before. Yeah, so I was picturing in my head like, okay, I guess we're going to wheel you onto the ship horizontally like this. Just made absolutely no sense. But it's during this scene too that our main character, I call him Bobby because they call him Bobby,
Robert, Bob. Yeah,
I
any of
kept going
those.
with Bobby in all my notes, so I'm just going to keep calling him Bobby.
All right. It was kind of... I hate how they already... 60s white man look exactly the same, and then they get Bob and Bill.
Yeah,
Like,
that-
come on, give us something to differentiate these guys.
Yeah, they literally look so much alike. They both have very Bob and Bill names, like so cliche. But yeah, so Bob, our astronaut, Mr. Gaines there, he's getting turned horizontally, and his friend Bill comes in, and he just mentions like, hey, I just spoke with your wife on the phone. So now that's canon. That's something that Bob knows happened in at least this universe.
This was something, I don't know if I was... The first time I watched this, I actually engage and watch it and don't take notes. And then the second time I take notes, so sometimes I miss things. But neither of the times did I mention him say he didn't have that conversation. Does that actually happen in this?
Yeah, they at the...
Must be when he wakes
when
up
he wakes up in the hospital, at some point someone says, no, I never had that conversation with you. So
it must be really quick, because I missed it both times.
Oh.
So I was like, what the fuck? I don't remember him saying that.
I
But
remember it both times when I watched it, but yeah.
parallel universe, man. Kind of feel like I'm in one right now.
Oh, remind me at the end. I want to talk about what happened with Wikipedia on this one on me. And did it happen with you?
It did not.
Oh, that's really weird. So anyway, yep. So he has that conversation with Bill there. Yep. So now it's T minus, and he gets launched off.
Giggity.
And he's moving around in orbit. I think he's supposed to be up there for a week. He's going to do 15 orbits around the Earth. And then at one point they mention Gus Grissom, who is a real live astronaut that like actually went into space and like did orbits there. And then they mentioned someone named Glenn. I'm guessing, wasn't there like someone that like broke the sound barrier before any of this?
I'm not sure. I'm not too up to speed on my astronaut history.
I think in a science class one time we had to watch like a movie that was about like the first 5 people that like during the Cold War, but like they broke small achievements that eventually led to being the first astronaut, like Neil Armstrong and stuff like that. But they talked about like Glenn Grissom there and Gus Grissom and other
Isn't
people like
Gus
that.
Grissom from CSI?
I know his
a
name
Gu-
is Grissom. I don't know if his first name is Gus.
I think it is. What's your take on Helen, like when they're watching the launch, like 3, 2, 1, and right on 1 she turns it off? Is that
Yeah.
because she didn't want to see it explode, but she could probably see the rocket, I'm guessing?
I mean, I can kind of understand. It's not something that I would do. Like, if I knew that a loved one was going up in a rocket, I would want to watch the whole thing and, like, know that it was safe. But if I'm guessing for her, she was so nervous of the outcome of what if the rocket explodes, like, she turns it off because she's like, I just don't want to see it. I can't think about it.
I was going to say, like, obviously this was before the Challenger, but all I could think of would be like, oh, shit.
And I mean, there's probably been other explosions and bad things that happen even
for
in the
sure.
very early days too. Probably happened a lot more often. So I mean, it's definitely like I can understand why she would turn off. It's not something that I would personally do, but I mean, I definitely get it. So yeah, she turns off the TV there. Did you notice the countdown guy kind of looked like Ron Howard's brother?
No, I didn't. What the hell's his name? Obviously his last name's Howard. Clint
Yeah.
Howard.
Jesus, that guy.
He's a very odd-looking man.
Yeah, so shows them, then she's watching TV. She turns it off right when they hit 0. And then we get a shot of Mr. Gaines back up in his capsule, and he says, we just discarded the booster, and we get a live shot. It must have been an actual real footage shot of a booster getting discharged.
Yeah, I think they used a lot of stock footage because they got like the battleship in this scene, there a lot, and the rocket launch obviously itself.
Yep.
But also he's like, I can see it. There's no way he'd be able to see that behind him unless he had a rear view mirror.
Which they wouldn't have put a rear view mirror on a rocket. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, I guess if the ship's going one way and like you can kind of see it out the window, maybe. I don't know how that'd work. But yeah, so then he's passing over the Bermuda area, and then we hear mentions of he's passing over Zanzibar, and then right when we start to hear like that there's trouble with communication is the map kind of shows him over Australia there, so he's definitely making like a trajectory.
Phoebus 10, do you hear us?
I kept thinking they were saying Beavis 10, and then I turned on subtitles and I'm like, oh, Phoebus 10. I was thinking like Mr. Beavis. It was supposed to be like a reference to that, but no, it was Phoebus, which apparently is related to Apollo. It was a different name for Apollo was Phoebus.
That sounds like something Greek or Roman.
So yeah, Phoebus 10, can you hear us? And then white light flashes, a big bang, and then it kind of cuts to black, and we get the shot that you were saying you liked, where it goes from black to small pinhole, and then it kind of opens up wide, and you can get the shot of him laying in the hospital bed there.
That's cool.
And then, so he's lying in bed, and then he wakes up.
Well, how about it, Gaines? Can you talk?
Sure, I can talk. What happened?
Well, we were waiting for you to wake up to tell us, Bob.
Tell you? I can't tell you anything. I blacked out.
We lost you on radar and radio. Absolutely no contact.
I had an odd sensation.
He had his first wet dream up there.
Ooh. So we start to get into the mystery of it all. So he has no memory of how he got back down. And then everyone else in the room saying, well, we lost contact with you. And next thing we know, your ship was completely fine and had landed miles away. And it sounded like it didn't land in water. So how the hell did that even happen?
Like, how'd you do it, Bob? How'd you do it,
Bob? I don't know.
Which it would be like a miracle. There's no way.
Exactly. Like, you can't just crash it onto Earth and expect everything to be all hunky-dory afterwards. But, yeah, and the general and Bill go out into the hallway, and they each have a cigarette, and they're like, well, what do you think about all this?
Did you notice that their Bill is on the right side in this one, and then in the next universe at the end, they switch sides. He's on the left.
Oh, I did not notice that. That's kind of a fun little... I wonder if it was intentional or if they just were walking in different spots.
Had to have been intentional, I would imagine.
Oh. Yeah, good catch there. And there was one other thing, too, like before they go out in the hallway, where Bob mentions, maybe the malfunction was between my ears, kind of playing that maybe he's just gone insane, which I really wish that they had just gone with this whole thing was in his mind sort of scenario. Like
I really enjoy the idea of he actually did go
a
different parallel
because
universe.
it makes no
How does
sense.
it make no sense?
As to... I can see him going to a different parallel universe, but then, like, how does the ship land? That's not explained. And then, like, at the end, when he jumps back into his ship again, like,
I don't think he actually went himself. I think it was more of his consciousness went back. I think it's more of a deeper thing like that.
Perhaps. I still don't like this episode. Yeah, I just like the idea of him passing out as a more reasonable explanation, but...
I like how when they're in the hallway talking, there's like, there's only 3 ways a man can come back. And what did he say? Like, one of them was essentially he comes back in a body bag.
Yeah, they were saying there's 3 explanations to explain the blackout. One was because he died. One was because solar radiation or solar flares. And another had to do with some other like space cosmic rays or something like that, we'll say. And since he ruled out all 3, so it's like there's no explanation as to why the communication would have got cut off. So they finally agree to discharge him, and he gets a ride back to his house, and he goes to greet his wife, and we get this first inkling that something's not right.
What's the matter, Bob?
Is that what you did for therapy while I was gone? Put up that fence?
What do you mean?
That fence wasn't there when I left last week.
Are you kidding me? That fence was there when we bought the house. Outer space does things to memories, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it appears.
That would be fucking creepy.
I don't think it would, because I have a shit memory, and I feel like I misremember shit all the time. I feel like all these, there are a lot of really minute things, other than like his rank.
When he starts going through the encyclopedia, a bunch of stuff, the president not being, the biggest thing is that the odds that he'd still have the same wife and daughter is
that doesn't make any
almost
sense.
Impossible.
I don't know. The things that are different are so minor and minute. I would have loved it if it was just like, oh, this was all in my head and I'd just gone crazy from like maybe like a cosmic ray hit me in the brain just the right way and I had this little fantasy and he wakes up a couple moments later and he's still in the ship. I thought that would be a better ending. But anyway, yeah, so it's his first day back with his family. He's already noticed that the fence is different. And then his wife and daughter are cleaning up after dinner, and he's already kind of noticing that they're treating him different too. Because he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get my robe," and the wife's like, "No, let your daughter do it." And he's like, "No, you guys have been like babying me ever since I got back." And
which they probably would, because he could have died, so they'd be not taking him for granted.
Yeah, but he kind of senses something beyond this. He's sensing that it's more like they're treating him different because he's different. He's even starting to pick up on this.
True. And then he goes upstairs to get his bathrobe on.
Yep. And it's at this point he's putting it on his bathrobe, and he's like, "Oh, honey, some colonel must have walked away with no shirt on because I got his shirt. Look at these birds here." And then she comes up into the room, and he's like, "Wait, what do you remember my title being?"
Hey, what was my rank when I left? He's like, "I was a major, wasn't I?" She's like, you were made a colonel back in March." And this bewilders him.
I mean, and then she brings up a good point too. Like, don't let a couple of good things like us having a fence now and you getting a promotion ruin your day. Like, to be fair, like, if those are the only changes that you're noticing, like, yeah, it's not, like, it's a little weird that you've misremembered these things, but it's not the end of the world. And my first thought would be, okay, something's wrong with my brain. I'm clearly misremembering things, not I must have traveled through time, like, or traveled to another dimension. It's big leap on his part.
And then we get my favorite part right after this. She goes in to calm him down with a kiss.
Something's different about your kiss. And she does not play it cool at all.
And you notice what the music was from?
No.
The same as back there. Dun, dun.
Yeah, it was
dun, dun.
very suspenseful music for what was a very kind of silly moment of like, oh, your kiss is different. And then it's also at this point, too, that we get the whole line about, you said you didn't get a call from Bill, but I remember Bill specifically stating that he gave you a call. So again, another very minor thing that apparently he's misremembering or the world is misremembering for him. And at this point, he's just starting to spiral.
I like how she walks down the stairs, picks up the phone, like, and calls someone, like, as if he wouldn't be watching, and then she like barely gets any words out, and then she hangs up. And I was just calling Bill because, like, that was so unsubtle. Kind of seems more
like an affair at this point. Like, apparently she's with Bill. That'd be a more reasonable explanation than, Bill, something's crazy. My husband's kiss is different. So he's trying to calm down again, and he's sitting down, and his wife's trying to calm him down. And then their daughter walks in with some coffee, and she sets it on the table, and she starts to make it for her dad there, but she almost puts cream and sugar in it when he lets her know, no, that's not how I take my coffee.
I helped Mommy make the pie.
You know, someday I'm going to lose you to a Navy ensign who'll marry you for your father's money and your cooking. Now, honey, you know I don't take sugar.
It seems so sinister.
Just the most dramatic noises over something so simple. So at this point, the daughter completely loses her shit.
I mean, I guess to play devil's advocate, if he had always been like, where the fuck's the sugar? Like, always making it.
I don't think he was the kind of father that's beating his daughter because she's not putting sugar in the coffee. No, but I'm saying, like, he could have made it a point, like, they might have obviously been like, Dad loves sugar in his coffee. And for him to go from, like, that to, like, I don't take sugar. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You beat Mom over it last week. It's these changes, man. They're so minute. I don't think anyone would be like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. So, yeah. now the daughter's all upset too.
Daddy, you're different.
The child sensed it, and you have too. Because now he realized that everyone in the family is noticing that he's different, and he's noticing a bunch of differences here. So little things are starting to add up. So it's time to go to the shrink. And so the general's there, and so is Bill, and everyone's there except for Bobby.
Just talking about him behind his back. So he's crazy. Let's be really delicate with this guy.
He's kind of lost his marbles, but let's try to be nice. Yeah, so it seems like the general only cares about the space project, which, to be fair, costs a lot of money. Totally get that. Like, that's reasonable.
But also, you wouldn't want someone else to go up in space and have the same episode keep happening.
Yeah. And it's at this point, too, that the shrink mentions a new fixation that he's found different. He keeps talking about some guy named John F. Kennedy. Who the hell is John F. Kennedy?
Definitely cue Back to the Future.
All right. Did you like the meme I said?
That was a good one.
Yeah, so it's quite a big change there, I'd say, in terms of misremembering who's president. That's probably up there on things you forgot. Helen's talking to Bill about her concerns, and
Maggie's noticed it too. Something's off.
And it's at this point that Bob comes downstairs, and he's holding an encyclopedia, and he's like, "Oh, look at all these weird differences that I've found. Like, some things are the same, but other things are completely different, and some things are somewhat the same, but with minor differences to them." Like, this man must have really remembered his history quite well to be going through an encyclopedia and remembering, like, exact details that are slightly different.
It says right here, women can orgasm. That's impossible.
Yeah, so when he's going through his encyclopedia, he kind of does the whole saying the name of the episode inside the episode. So let's take a look at that.
I've got dozens of items like that. Men talked about who never existed. Men who existed and not even mentioned. Historical events that I know happened a certain way, somehow, according to the encyclopedia, didn't happen or happened another way. It's as if there were another world parallel to mine.
He said it.
As if I'm in the parallel.
So it's at this moment he kind of starts going deeper on it. He's like, well, then you guys are probably not the people that I remember. And then to which Bill kind of responds, well, then you may not be the one that we know then too.
I like how Bill is trying to be a good friend. He's like, do you really want to go down this road? Because you could go like into like psychiatric thing. You could freaking lose everything, which I think Bill is a good friend in this.
He is a good friend, unless he's sleeping with the wife. I've sensed some sexual tension there.
Think he's a sex fiend?
Sex fiend. And it's at this point that Bobby's like, okay, well, I know what can confirm this. We'll get my daughter to confirm who I am. She'll be the linchpin to my sanity plea. And then he goes to calls for his daughter, Maggie, come down and confirm who Daddy is.
Who am I?
Who am I?
I don't know.
Which, like, is it really over the coffee? Like, what else has happened?
I don't know. Maybe children could sense something.
But again, that's why if this was well written, it would have shown us for like maybe the first 10 minutes or so, here's what normal life looked like.
Like the day before he left for his mission or something.
Yeah, and then for us to see it through.
But we would have to see other Bob's life.
Yeah.
But I feel like that would get really confusing.
What do you mean?
Because we would have to see Colonel Gaines' day with his people and then see Major Gaines.
Oh, no, I'm just talking about just seeing Major Gaines' day.
But then that wouldn't matter because we're not with his family.
No, because we're knowing what he's used to. Oh, because from Maggie's perspective. Yeah.
So you'd have to see it from Maggie's perspective, Universe 2's Maggie's perspective. So that wouldn't work. That would get really fucked up.
I guess just the acknowledgement of like, here's what one of the days looks like, and now he's in a different universe and it looks different, instead of just being like, oh, bam, here's this other universe. Just trust us, things are different.
It would work better if he noticed things different about his family. Because we're following through his perspective. If we had seen like his wife not want sugar, and then when he's in the other one, she's taking it.
Yep, that would have been a lot better.
It would work a lot better if he noticed the changes, not other people that we're not witnessing through events through.
Yep, I get you. Yeah, it's a convoluted thing. So Maggie's like, I don't know who you are, but you're not my dad. And then because you don't take coffee the same way.
Then we go to the hangar.
Yes. So then we see the hangar, and there's like a scientist guy there, and he's like, "Oh, this vehicle looks like a lot like the vehicle that went off, but there's slight differences, as if someone rewired it slightly different, or a button's in a slightly different spot." Which one man built this thing and remembers exactly where every single wire and button is. A bit crazy there. But they decide to bring Bobby over and have him inspect it and see if he can confirm that it's the same one that he went up in and came down in. So then they get
He had a awesome chance to be like, I'm not sure if I went up in it, but I sure went down in it, if you catch my drift.
Ew. So they bring Bobby in and they show him the fuselage there, and it's at this point he starts to hear some stuff.
What's the matter with you?
3-foot waves, only 1/10 cloud coverage, 10 miles visibility.
Don't you hear that voice? Don't you hear that voice?
What are you talking about? What voice are you talking about?
That voice. That voice.
And just like that, he is now back in his spaceship with no explanation as to how he got there.
I think it was his consciousness.
Two things with that. One, if they wanted to go with the idea that it's his consciousness and not his like physical body moving, then they should show it in a way of like, oh, Major has
Maybe he
an
blacked out.
earring, but like the Colonel doesn't wear an earring, or like one has a tattoo and the other one doesn't. Like something that he notices on his physical body to be like, wow, that's not even. I don't remember this on my body. Something to like say that you're in a different body too, because otherwise it doesn't really show well that your just consciousness is being transported.
I suppose.
And then the other thing that I was thinking too that wouldn't make any sense for the whole mind switching thing is that we later find out that he was only cut off from communication for about 6 hours, whereas his trip to this parallel universe took several days. So that also
that's
doesn't
what
make
I'd
any
get
sense.
into. Like, we don't really know what happens when we dream. What if when we dream we're going to a parallel universe? And you know how just like Inception, time works differently when you're in a dream.
I hope that's not true. The other night I had a dream I had to escape North Korea.
Well, in the multiverse, I guess there's a possibility of everything happening to you. So
yeah, that'd be weird. So yeah, he's back up in the ship, and he finally has communication. And then we cut to him back in the same bed.
Before his last question.
Yeah. So now he's back up in the ship, and he has a question now that he's back in radio contact with him, and he asks, "Who's president of the United States?" And
I hope
doesn't.
he says Kennedy.
Yeah, he doesn't get an answer.
Says Kennedy.
But he really hopes they said Kennedy. And then cut to him in the hospital bed there, and he's still asking the same question. Hey, you guys didn't answer my question when I was up there. Who's president? And they're like, well, it's Kennedy. Why are you asking?
You've been gone 2 days, not 2 years, you fucking idiot.
And so they confirm that he is back, at least in a universe that's more similar, because they have the same president, I guess.
Then they go back out into the hallway, and like I said, it's the opposite shot. Bill and the general are in opposite. One's on the left and one's on the right, and then vice versa in this shot, which is pretty cool.
Also, you notice there's a weird third guy there that wasn't in...
Well, the third guy comes to relay the message, because he comes in and goes, guys, well, I just heard, we just got a radio communication from a Colonel.
No, not that guy. When they're still in the room, there's a third person standing with them, too. That's not...
He was in the other universe, too.
I don't remember that. I remember in the first universe that we go to, there's just two people.
Nope, there was 3.
Oh.
Parallel universes, man.
But
yeah, the guy comes to deliver the message that they just got a radio interception from a Colonel Gaines.
Yeah, which he had just mentioned that he remembered a Colonel Gaines, so they're all like, that's a little weird. Maybe that kind of does corroborate his story of going to another parallel universe. Yeah, so he's like saying like, yeah, my counterpart was a colonel. Hope he got back safe. And then we later hear the news that there is a colonel still out there, kind of lost as well, communicating with them. And then we cut to him getting back home again this time, and he asks,
"No fence,
no fence this time." So that's a good sign. And then he sees his wife and his daughter, and
he asks his daughter, he's like, "Honey, who am I?" "Daddy, what are you talking about?" So that's assurance for him right there.
Yep. So it seems that all is well, and then Rod takes us out.
Major Robert Gaines, a latter-day voyager, just returned from an adventure. Submitted to you without any recommendations as to belief or disbelief. You can accept or reject. You pays your money and you takes your choice. But credulous or incredulous, don't bother to ask anyone for proof that it could happen. The obligation is a reverse challenge. Prove that it couldn't. This happens to be the Twilight Zone.
And that is our episode. Alex, what did you learn?
Never go to space.
Yeah, there's a lot of scary things in space. A lot of people want to be astronauts and stuff like that, or like move to Mars. I'm like, why? Terrifying. All right, we'll jump right into ratings. IMDb has this episode at a 7.6, which is absolutely mind-boggling. I know I hated this one a lot more than you, so I'm going to let you go first. How would it normally...
We'll go with the lower rating first.
You want to do the lower rating? Okay, lower rating first then, so I'll go first. I'm giving this episode a 3.
Boo. Fucking boo.
Terrible episode. Incredibly boring, drawn out, slow, with no message. The characters are all boring. The changes from one world to the other are boring. How he gets back to the ship makes no sense and is not explained at all. This would have been a lot more interesting if they had rewritten it, and a lot more reasonable if the ending was just ended with him, with it all being in his head. Like, he wakes up the second time in the hospital wing, and there's no colonel flying through outer space, too. The whole thing was just a whole dream. It would have made way more sense. And it would have been so much better kind of as an episode, too, like the dangers of paranoia and like how a few misremembrances of memories can kind of like influence other people, and like the power of suggestion and mass hysteria. It could have gone a whole different level that would have made it so much better, I think.
I definitely disagree with you. I really enjoy, well, not really enjoy, but I did enjoy this episode. I think it was hindered by being the hour long. I think if this were to be half an hour one, like if we could edit it down to that, I could see this being like an 8. It has a really cool premise that he accidentally gets to a different place. It's awesome. It's just like Back to the Future, and it was before there. And the whole message is there's no place like home, essentially. And
they don't set up his original home. Like, there's so many things that they would need to rewrite and add to, and like just completely change. Like, shit episode.
No, I'm going back and forth.
Yeah, what is? You didn't give out your number.
I'm gonna give this a 6.
All right.
So a 6 and a 3.
Yeah.
3 points off. I think we've been 3 points off before.
Yeah, I think so.
But all right, a 6 and a 3.
Yep.
Who are they? Where are they? What are they? Let's find out together in the Twilight Gnome presents Inside the Twilight Zone.
All right, so this week we have Steve Forrest. He played Robert Gaines. He was in Playhouse 90, a bunch of movies in the 50s, 2 night galleries, 15 episodes of Dallas, for anyone that's a big fan of Dallas there.
Who Shot J.R.?
Who Shot J.R. Ewing? And he was in the movie Spies Like Us. That's a movie I'd like to see.
I've never seen it, but I can't stand fucking...
John Candy?
No, that was Chevy
that
Chase and fucking Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd has his own...
I don't like Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, he kind of seems like he'd be a douche. But he has his own brand of like...
tequila.
Crystal Skull tequila.
He's been on Joe Rogan a few times. He's quite the like alien dude.
Yeah. And then we also have Jacqueline Scott. She played Helen Gaines. She was in 8 Gunsmokes, 2... Is this Lasses? What's
Lassie?
Oh, okay. She was in 8 Gunsmokes, 2 episodes of Lassie, 2 Outer Limits, and then a bunch of TV shows from the 60s and 70s. And then we have Frank Aletter?
Aletter, I guess I would say.
Frank Aletter. And he played Bill, and he was in an episode of MASH. I don't remember him from that one, though. And then 2 Perry Masons, and just a lot of TV from the 60s, 70s, and 80s in general there. So Serling drew inspiration to write this episode because a few months prior, the first American to orbit Earth, John Glenn manned the mission that lasted 4 hours and 55 minutes. So that's kind of where his inspiration for the whole idea of an astronaut orbiting kind of came from. And then in March 1963, the Air Force Recruiting Office actually used Steve Forrest, who played Bob, to narrate a 10-minute long film utilizing clips from this episode, which is pretty cool. And then, although the first draft of the script had already been written in October of 1962, in January of 63, Hugh Hefner wrote to Serling suggesting a plot idea for The Twilight Zone that was very similar to this, but obviously it had a lot more perviness to it.
No way.
A lot of sexual explicit moments. And but in Hugh's story, Bob gets home and he kisses who he thinks is his wife. Turns out it's not actually her, and realizes it's actually his daughter. So there's some weird like incest stuff kind of going on. So weird mind of Hugh Hefner. Didn't know that about him. In total, this episode cost $88,624. The director received a total of $2,750, quite a bit more than usual. And the cast received $10,847.
What'd you say to me, Mike?
What's in a name, Mr. Benninger, really? A mere question of semantics. Just language. A mere stretch of words.
So every week, Alex and I come up with a few alternative titles to the episode we are watching. This week, I came up with 6.
Ooh, I have 4.
All right, I'll go first then. I'll start with my debacle. I have the Dimension debacle.
I have Deep Space debacle.
Nice.
Even though he was in Earth's orbit, but
yeah, close enough. I have the Man of Two Worlds.
I have Robert Gaines in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yep. I have the Multiverse of Madness.
My last one, I only had 3, I guess, is Through the Looking Glass. I kind of like that.
Yeah, Alice in Wonderland reference. I have Who Are You? I have The Mandela Effect. And I think my favorite is The Minor Differences of Major Gains.
That's a good one. Yeah. I enjoy that.
Couple switcheroos. I have 4.
I have like 6.
Oh, all right. You start then.
All right. And When the Sky Was Opened.
No, I didn't get that one. I have Perchance to Dream.
I didn't have that. I have I Shot an Arrow into the Air.
I didn't have that one either. I had A World of Difference.
Nope. I had Mirror Image.
Yep, Mirror Image. I got that one too. And my last one was A World of His Own.
I had Back There, The Passerby, and this one you'd have to change, but I have The Odyssey of Phoebus 10.
Yeah. A lot of good ones there.
Oh, it may be better, it may be worse. The Twilight Zone daily first.
All right, so a couple of references this week. We have The Butterfly Effect from 2004. Not really about parallel universes, but definitely like how a small change can change the entire outcome of your reality. The movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. I haven't seen that, but have you seen it yet?
I haven't seen it. It's on my list of ones I want to see, but I from what I've heard, like she gains the ability to like travel through different multiverses and stuff.
Is that the one with... No, that's Cloud Atlas. Have you seen Cloud Atlas? The one with Tom
I have not
Hanks,
seen that
and
one.
they just like keep getting reincarnated. So it shows them like back in like BC to like thousands of years in the future, and they do a very weird... I don't know how they got away. They did like Asian face.
On Tom Hanks?
Yeah, they did it on a lot of like white actors.
Was it a lot of like CGI type stuff?
Kinda, but that was prosthetics and stuff, and just looked...
It looked funny.
Very distasteful. We have The One with Jet Li, Donnie Darko, and the TV show Fringe is fucking... If you guys haven't seen Fringe, Fringe is incredible. They deal with parallel universes a lot. I won't give out spoilers if you haven't seen it, but there is a major spoiler. The main character, Walter, creates a device. I won't tell you why he creates it, but it's fucking amazing.
I remember you talking about that show a lot. I still haven't seen it yet.
So do yourself a favor and watch that. It's really good. And then pretty much literally any superhero movie nowadays, especially now that they're getting meta like Deadpool, or any of the Avengers films where they go back in time like in Endgame and stuff and change different things, or Loki.
And then DC is now joining the party late with their own Flash going to different multiverses. And
That Flash movie was really good. I really
seen that
enjoyed
one
it.
either.
It's really
I
good.
got overloaded with a ton of superhero movies, so.
Well, that is my references for the week.
Nice, good haul. All right, so every week Alex picks the episode, and he does so by showing me an AI-generated picture, and we like to play a little game where I have to guess what it is. So I know that the next episode coming up is going to be a death one, and it's been a while since we had a season 2, so I'm guessing it's probably going to be something death season 2, but I don't know. Let's see.
You see the picture?
Yep. It is Long Distance Call, yeah.
It is.
Nice.
I believe that's Bill Mumy again.
It is Bill Mumy again, yeah.
He's in 3 Twilight Zone episodes.
What's the third?
In Praise of Pip.
Oh.
And then Ron Howard is in Walking Distance. They do look very similar.
They look very similar. For the longest time, I thought that Bill Mumy was just Ron Howard. But, yeah, excited. It's one I remember quite well. So, yeah.
I believe that's a videotape episode as well.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Our second videotape episode.
Yeah, in quite some time.
In 4 weeks. The last one was episode 40.
Feels like a short distance. All right, so next week, Long Distance Call. Just a little bit of housekeeping, guys. If you could continue to like and subscribe to the YouTube page, it means a lot to us. And we actually now have started putting up some of our episodes on Spotify. By the time you listen to this, we might have all of them maybe.
Should be very close. I got half of them on there right now.
Yeah, so definitely go check out us on Spotify or maybe pretty much any of the other popular platforms like
Apple Podcast. I'm having a hard time with Apple Podcasts. For some reason, they don't make it as user-friendly as Spotify. I'm going to have to look into that. But I think we can be found on iHeartRadio, Spotify. Amazon has a podcast service, but pretty much all the major ones. So
nice. So yeah, definitely go look us up on your favorite platforms there. Be sure to give us a like and a follow if those platforms have that feature. And let your friends know, too, if they like podcasts but they don't like YouTube. Now we're on Spotify and everything else, too. So, yeah, let them know. And you can also go to our Facebook page and be sure to like and follow that as well. And if you need to get a hold of us for any other reason, you can email us at twilightgnome59@gmail.com. Alex, my final question for you. If you could travel to a parallel universe, what version of yourself would you want to meet and why?
That could be like a careful what you wish for, don't meet your idol thing. So you don't want to meet like rock star Alex. He could be a fucking cunt. So I don't know. I guess it would have to be like something very funny, like scientist Alex, one that's like a genius or something. Maybe it'd be kind of cool.
That'd be cool, yeah.
Fucking wrestler Alex, or I'm like a WWE wrestler.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you down to Super Slam.
Or President Alex.
Yeah,
I don't know, something along those lines.
A lot of fun ones there.
How about you?
I don't know if I'd want to meet any different parallel versions of myself, because it's either going to be a life that's better than my current one, so when you get back, you're going to feel depressed, or it's going to be one that's worse than your current one, so you're going to feel bad for that version of yourself.
Crackhead Tyler.
Yeah, like, I mean, no matter which way you look at it, like...
I got a good one.
Yeah.
I want to go see the Alex that gets the chance at like 40, because every 20 years CBS does another Twilight Zone thing.
Oh,
and
I get
to be the Rod Serling and help write.
That would be cool.
2040 Twilight Zone series.
Yeah, nice.
Pretty cool.
That'd be pretty cool too. Yeah. All right. Well, until next week, Alex, do you have anything to say to our dear listeners?
Yes, thank you for stepping into this alternate universe of the Twilight Gnome.
It's 4 o'clock, the howling man is gone.